Hey guys, Jared here from Deere Country Farm and Lawn. John Deere Over AutoConnect decks have been on the market now for years. And whether you're in the market for one or whether you own one right now, you've obviously been online seeing those 2 to 3 minute videos of a guy driving over top of the deck and back onto it. They don't really go too much into depth with it. Well, today, I want to take one of these decks on and off, and I want to do a deep dive into how it's done. And then, also along the way, some tips and tricks that'll help you out to make your ownership of this piece of equipment easy. All right, guys. So I'm standing next to a model year 2023 John Deere 1025R. It's equipped with a 60-inch driver over AutoConnect deck. Now, a couple things before we get started here that I'm going to note is that this procedure is going to be the same for a 1023E, 1025R, as well as a 2025R. It's also good to note that if you have a model that is built prior to 2020, or you're looking at a used model that's built prior to 2020, the procedure is going to be the exact same, except for unhooking the back lift arms. And we'll go over that here when we get to that point. It's also good to note, too, that there are two different style lift arm kits underneath. Our system here is equipped with a mechanical system that is going to be controlled by the 3-point. There is an optional independent hydraulic system that is controlled by the loader joystick. For demonstration purposes, our unit, like I said, is equipped with a mechanical system, so we'll be going over that. It's the exact same, except for raising and lowering the deck. On a hydraulic system, you'll just use the loader joystick. Now, without further ado, let's jump into it. All right, guys, we're going to dive into the first step here. The first step is we need to make sure that our deck is raised all the way up to the highest position. Now, depending on what system you have, hydraulic or mechanical, either done by the loader joystick or the 3-point control, ours, for demonstration purposes, have already been raised all the way up. Now, what that's going to do is that's going to release the pressure on the height of cut knob and allow us to turn that to the driver over position. Let's take a look at that real quick. The height of cut knob is located on the left-hand side of the machine, right down here. And if you look, the driver position is usually located about a 12 o'clock position. If, for example, your normal cutoff height is right there, you simply would just take this dial, turn it all the way down. You want that arrow to be pointing right there at the driver over position. That's going to allow us to lower the deck down all the way to the lowest position. Now, another thing to note here real quick too is we need to release the gauge wheel locks. If we do not do that, the mower deck is not fully going to rest on the ground. We're not going to be able to unhook things. It's not going to work correctly. The gauge wheel locks are simple. Pull up. And there's 4 different points. 1, 2, and then 2 on the other side as well. We need to release those before we can lower the deck down to the ground. If you follow me over here, we'll keep going. Now, once the gauge wheels are unlocked, we're able to take either our 3-point control or our loader joystick for the hydraulic system and lower the deck all the way down to the ground. You're simply just going to push forward. The deck is now at the lowest position. It's at the driver over position. We're able to unhook the back links. And if you want to follow me down here, I'll show you where those are located at. They're located down here. There's going to be a retaining pin, which you will need to take out, and there's a storage position right behind it that you can put that in. And that'll allow you to flip these latches up. Okay? Now, it's good to note that this is a piece of equipment. It's not always going to be perfect. Okay? Sometimes you're going to lower this thing down. It's not going to be perfectly loose. You're going to have it kind of tight. You're going to be wondering what's going on. Like I said, it's a piece of equipment. Just use a little bit of elbow grease, grab the deck, pull it back. You'll be able to lift that latch fine. If you try pulling back on it, or if it is snug no matter what you do, then obviously there is something out of adjustment. You can refer to your owner's manual, or if it's a recently purchased machine, call your dealer up, have them readjust the deck. Okay? We need to do this to both sides, so I'm going to walk around real quick and grab the other side. Same deal, put the retaining pin in the back and flip that latch up. Now, this is where it's going to differ a little bit if you have a model year 2020 and prior. The link in the back to unhook is not designed like this. You will have a different design that has a rod that goes all the way to the other side. So instead of like me having to get up, walk around the machine real quick and actually do both sides, when you flip the latch on the older models, the prior 2020 models, it's going to unhook both sides at the same time. Okay, so you don't need to walk around. On ours, we do have to lift both. Okay. Once we did that, the deck is released and we're ready to drive over it. Now, a couple tips here real quick before we actually get to that part of the demonstration goes with the mower deck. When you're lowering the mower deck, if you're doing this in, say, a driveway, if you're doing this in, say, a garage, asphalt, concrete, metal, they usually don't mix very well when it comes to friction. The deck will have a tendency of sliding backwards as you're trying to drive over the deck or go onto the deck. I've used something as simple as cardboard box broken down to create a little bit of friction. I do have customers that do pick up things like very thin carpet or very thin rubber mats, just enough to create a little bit of friction underneath, so that way when you're driving over, the deck doesn't want to slide. Now, you want to make sure that whatever you put underneath the deck is not a thick piece of material. There are times where I have heard instances where customers go and pick up something like a stall mat from Tractor Supply that is 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch thick. What that will do is, number one, it won't lower the deck down far enough for you to be able to release those back links. But number two, as you start to drive over the deck, if you are able to get the back links loose, if you have the loader installed, the loader park stand will actually catch the front draft arm and it will break it. So make sure whatever you're putting underneath is thin. Make sure the deck is still able to fully go down all the way and you're able to release those back links easily, that it's not too difficult to do that. At this time, it's time to drive over the deck, so let's get to it. All right, so I'm on the tractor now. We're getting ready to drive over. A couple things we want to note here real quick. First off, the tractor is going to need to be in 4-wheel drive. 4-wheel drive is going to be located down here next to my right leg. It's a simple push forward. That's going to engage the 4-wheel drive system. Second thing, when we start the tractor up, we're going to put it in low range. Low range is going to provide enough torque and power for the tractor to be able to pull itself up over top of the deck. Now, if you leave it at idle, it's going to sound like the engine wants to bulge down a little bit. It's not really going to want to pull up too much, so give her a little bit of throttle, make it a little bit easier, come up and over top of the deck. If you look down here, there is a silver guide bar. That guide bar is there for the drive over position, whether you're putting it on or off, kind of as a simple guide. You're going to take the inside of your left wheel and use that to kind of rub right alongside of that to ensure that when you're taking it off, you come off correctly, but when you're putting it on, that you're as lined up as possible to make sure everything latches into place correctly. A couple other things here real quick. First off, with the loader, if you have the loader installed, make sure that you raise the loader up roughly about 2 feet. Doesn't need to be all the way up in the air, just high enough that when you come off the back side of the deck, you don't smack the top of the gearbox with the loader bucket because it's down too low. Another thing that we're going to go over when I get halfway over the deck is the rear 3-point. And we'll explain that here shortly. I'm going to drive up, get about halfway over. We're going to pause real quick, and then we're going to take a look at the rear, and I'm going to fill you in on a quick little tip. All right? So let's get started. I'm going to raise the loader up ever so slightly. Doesn't have to be all the way up in the air, just maybe about 2-3 feet. And then we can back over, give it a little bit of throttle, and just keep the inside of our wheel right alongside that guide bar. All right, so we're at the back of the tractor real quick. We're halfway through our drive over position. Now, this tip mostly applies to people who have I-match hitches, some type of rear 3-point weight bracket or trailer attachment that's attached to the back permanently that they leave on. If you look down here, you'll see at the lowest position for the drive over position, the 3-point, if it has that attachment on it, is touching and coming in contact with the ground. What that's going to do to your driveway, what that's going to do to your garage, your concrete floor, what that's going to do to your yard is it's going to scratch, it's going to dig, it's going to damage it. It's also going to damage whatever you have on the back. There is a way to avoid this. It's not saying that you have to take this off all the time, but there is a tip of how to raise that 3-point up as you come onto the mower deck. I'll share that with you here real quick before I jump on the tractor and actually do it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop myself back down over the front of the deck and start to come back over it. When you are backing off of the deck, when your front tires hit the front of the deck and you start to pull yourself up and over, you can grab your 3-point and pull it up ever so slightly and ever so slowly. Okay. By the time you start pulling up on the deck, your back links are already disconnected from the deck. You don't have to worry about accidentally catching the mower. What you're going to do is, as you're coming over it and raising it up, it's going to raise that up and avoid it damaging whatever type of property you have. Now, this actually only applies on the mechanical system. The hydraulic system is independent. You don't have to worry about that. The mechanical system is the only system that you would really have to do this with. So let's jump back on the tractor real quick and let's see how that's done. All right, so I'm back on the tractor here. Just to recap real quick, I'm going to drive over the front. I'm going to show you how to avoid any type of rear three-point hitch or weight bracket digging into your asphalt, gravel, grass, whatever it may be. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Like I said, when I start to come onto the deck, you're going to see me raise that three-point up. That way it doesn't come in contact with the ground. All right, so as I come back off of it, I'm going to back up a little bit. As my tires start to hit and start to pull me up, I'm going to raise that three-point up at the same time. And that's it. We're off. All right, so we have the deck uninstalled here real quick. And before we drive back over it, we're going to go over a quick couple little tips. First off, if you plan on taking the tractor after the deck is uninstalled and going and doing some other type of work, such as loader work, rear three-point work, you don't plan on just servicing the deck and then driving right back onto it and putting it back on. You need to remember that your cut a height knob is set at the drive over position. Now, on a mechanical system like ours, if you go and have something on the rear and that cut a height knob is still in the drive over position, every time you go and lower that three-point down to do your work, your rear arms underneath for the deck lift links are going to lower down at the exact same time. And if you actually look at it, I have it lowered down here real quick. You'll see how close to the ground they go. You can easily get those caught on something and damage any of the components underneath there. So make sure that if you plan on going and doing some other type of work, that you raise those arms all the way up. So take the three-point, pull it all the way back, all the way to the top, and turn your cut a height knob all the way to the highest cut height. That means every time you go to lower the three-point, those links are going to move about a 1/4 inch or so. All right. Another tip here real quick I want to note is with the deck itself. If you have the deck off, it is a 7-gauge steel deck. It is a heavy deck. There are a couple ways that if you need to, say, maneuver this thing around your garage that I have customers do, and I do myself as well, is you can use the gauge wheels as rollers. That's one option. Another option is John Deere does offer the load and go ramps, which do replace the factory ramps on here. They allow you to take the bucket off. That way you can move the deck around itself. Do yourself a favor. This piece right here, you never want to attach any type of ropes to. You never want to attach any kind of straps to and try to lift the deck up itself. It has a simple bolt right here that holds the spring system on. If you do that, you're going to snap that bolt and that whole piece is going to come apart. You're going to need to replace some parts there. So if you need to move it or you do plan on using a strap safely to raise it, you can do so on areas such as the actual frame of the gauge wheels that are welded onto there. Like I said, best option, personal opinion, is load and go ramps. They just bolt right in there. They allow you to use the loader. It's attached 100% securely. With that being said, let's get on the tractor here real quick and let's put this deck back on. All right, so the deck's reinstalled. Couple things here real quick. You'll notice, yes, I didn't raise the rear three-point up when I went up and over top of it. If you want to take advantage of that tip, you can do so by raising that up ever so slightly as you come up onto the deck. And as you drop off the front of the deck, just make sure you lower that back down very quickly. Second thing to note too is when you come up over the deck, you might not have been able to tell from the video itself, the front wheels will give you torque steer. The front wheels will kind of move themselves back and forth as it pulls itself up over top of the deck. If it does so, do yourself a favor. Don't overcompensate. Don't start steering hard to the left, hard to the right. Small little movements will get you back on track as long as you keep your left inside wheel right alongside that guide bar as you come off. Another tip here real quick too is as you come off, make sure that you go forward enough to where you can hear the deck kind of click into place. If you don't hear a audible click like metal on metal clanking, but the deck starts to move and it looks like it's a little bit off center, stop, put the part brake on, shut the machine off, get off real quick and see where something's not lined up correctly. It takes me, a handful of times doing this before I got used to it. I still mess it up even nowadays. As I said before, it's a piece of machinery. It's never always going to be 100% perfect. But once you get used to it and once you get comfortable with it, you're able to recognize, number one, how to do it, but number two, if something doesn't go right, how to fix it, amend it, and then come back on and get it to hook up correctly. All right. Now that the deck is installed, there are still a few last things that we need to do here real quick. Number one, if you remember, our retaining pin was in the storage position. We need to make sure that we take it and put it into the operating position to keep these back links from coming loose. Second thing, our gauge wheels are still unlocked. We need to make sure that when we raise the deck back up, that we properly lock these back into place for our gauge wheel setting per our cut height. I'm going to go ahead real quick, start up the tractor. I'm going to raise this up, pop these in place. Once that's done, the driver position is 100% done. We're good to go. With our back pins in and our gauge wheels locked, we're all set to go. Couple closing comments here real quick. As always, it is a piece of machinery. Take your time with it. Be patient. If for whatever reason you have any kind of uncomfortable feelings with it, or if adjustments seem out, just make sure you visit your local dealer that you purchased it from, or your local dealer if you purchased it used. They'll be more than willing to help you out. Maybe offer you a demo on site to kind of go over the procedure again, or you can watch this video again. But like I said, just take your time with it. Be patient. I still mess it up, but once you do it a handful of times, you learn what to do when those situations arise. That concludes our demonstration here of the Over AutoConnect decks, the taking on and off. If you found this video useful and helpful, hit that like button down at the bottom. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel as well. We'll be putting out more videos here shortly of more tips and tricks and more hands-on of how-to with equipment. Thank you for joining me.